In the last episode, we talked about how being nice, helpful and submissive can sometimes lead to a serious disease. The idea is that Centauri can help make your personality stronger and improve your health, even if it's not clear how. Holly, Willow and Empathians are great for complementary personalities. We are going to be focusing on them today. But first, let's look more closely at the weak spots of these strong types, so that we can better understand how these flower remedies can help. We've learned that nice people tend to get sick more often than mean people. But statistically speaking, there are also far more nice people than nasty ones after all. It's not hard to imagine that the emotional attitude of the helpful nice people is down to less dopamine being produced. Dopamine is a chemical in our brain that makes us feel good when we do something right. It's a bit like the feeling you get when you've had a glass of champagne after passing an exam. The feeling of joy that comes from it is similar to the effect of some drugs. However, if we don't make enough of it, its lack can make us feel unmotivated and limit our possibilities. We start to feel like success isn't something we're meant to have, that there is nothing for us to win. This can lead to all sorts of consequences. You might feel like you're just treading water, are tired and weak, have an unflattering opinion of yourself, feel anxious and hopeless. In stressful situations, you always choose passivity, not aggression. The nice ones are the evaders. They do their best to avoid stress by chumming up to others, always being kind and helpful, and trying to avoid situations where they might have to fight, meaning using only one of the two well-known stress management strategies, fight or flight. If the emergency occurs in the form of a conflict, defeat is sealed, because winning is an unknown word to the helpful person. We mentioned the illnesses this can lead to in the last edition. As we can see, no stress is no solution. But let's take a closer look at stress to understand how strongly it influences our feelings and subsequently our behavior. Everything we experience through our senses is processed by our brain. When it comes to things that affect our emotional life, this happens in the central area, which we also call the limbic system. If we are under too much stress, either from outside or from our thoughts and behaviors, like if we are always worrying and feeling negative, then the limbic system kicks in and starts to react to the stress. This makes sure that the stress doesn't just stay in the head, but affects our whole body. Here's how it works. The head sets the physical limits of the brain with its solid, unyielding boundaries. We have to make do with what we've got. There's no point trying to squeeze in any more neural tissue. Not even cells that produce stress hormones. If your brain senses stress and wants to produce the necessary substances to cope with it, it has to outsource their production. The adrenal glands are perfect for this. The brain uses a trick where it makes chemicals that tell other organs to make and release their own hormones. We need much less of the signaling substances, and our brain, with its pea-sized pituitary gland, only needs to produce a small amount of them. Think of it like the start of a 100-meter race. 8 people sit in the starting blocks, tense and ready to go as soon as the shot is fired. 1 shot for all 8, not 8 shots. You could call that managing resources. The adrenal hormones triggered this way are pretty amazing. They convert the signal into a physical reaction that helps us deal with the stress. There are 3 of them, and we are going to take a closer look at the two well-known ones first. This will give us a better idea of what makes fighters and avoiders ill and how. The nice ones, meaning the avoiders, withdraw, try moving out of the stress zone even before entering it and into the comfort zone, and do everything they can to prevent an emergency from occurring in the first place. These are the candidates for cancer and ALS and other diseases. The fighters and fugitives have to deal with the two usual suspects, adrenaline and noradrenaline, the unequal twins. The hormone with the shorter name is used in everyday pop cultural language, but the other one is not so much. However, they both work well together. When stress increases, we find ourselves in a typical inner conflict, fight or flee. Avoid all attention or draw all attention to yourself. Run away or hit it, hide away or throw the cake, vanish into thin air or let the air explode. I think the principle has become pretty clear. When it comes to emotions, adrenaline is all about fear. It makes us want to run away from tricky situations. Noradrenaline, on the other hand, is all about anger. It makes us forget all about our fears and lets us go into battle with fiery rage. Moving away from something or towards something are the corresponding directions. How we handle fear and anger depends on how well we can handle stress. Everyone's got their own personal limit and can cope well with different degrees of it. If the stress goes above this limit, the nervous system automatically switches to emergency mode. We don't even need to make a decision, it makes its own. Let's get specific. I knew the kids would be noisy at the birthday party, so I was prepared for that. I can handle it. After all, it'll be over after a set time. If something goes wrong, no biggie, it's just part and parcel of being a parent. I'm not going to stress about it, especially since I'd already got the spare pens ready beforehand. If one of them breaks their arm while playing, the stress level rises. Now the child has to be looked after. You've got to get them to the doctor somehow, find someone to keep an eye on the party, or end it and ask the other parents to pick up their kids. Then, when I see a masked man dragging a child into his car, the inner switch flips all by itself. I jump up, run towards the culprit, scream, swear, grab a baton and don't give up until he's gone and the child is safe again. My anger has mobilized all my reserves. I don't hesitate, I act and instinctively resolve the situation. It didn't take long either. The stress relief starts with the screaming and hitting. Once the situation is under control again, I can sit down, take a deep breath, have a drink and calm down. That's how it's meant to be. Someone else might have been nervous about the poo or the broken arm. I'm pretty good at handling stress and can say that I have a fairly high tolerance for it. Anyone could have observed that. But what was going on inside me at stage 3, hidden from the human eye when the masked man appeared on the scene? The siren went off and I felt my nervous system switch from normal to alarm. The result of this is that the frontal part of the brain, which we use for thinking, analyzing and decision making, is disconnected from the rest of it. Instead, the brainstem takes over and it's a pretty spontaneous process, without any brooding or hesitation. I'm in a rage and can't think straight. I can't weigh things up, set priorities or think about what might happen. Would I have gone after the child abductor otherwise? Or would I not have run the other way, losing control and freaking out? So what happens to people who are fighting, upset, angry and aggressive, and how do they become sick in contrast to the nice guys? The hormone that makes us angry, noradrenaline, constricts our blood vessels, which increases blood pressure. so all the nutrients and oxygen get to the right place super fast. Into the throat, which makes our yelling more effective, and then into the muscles to do the same with our fists. But you can't use them straight away. The fuel, sugar in this case, needs to get into the cells so it can be burned and deliver the energy we need. There's a well-known hormone that does exactly this, insulin. But where are we supposed to get it from in a hurry? So this is where we need to think about a third adrenal hormone that's not really talked about in the culture of its popular colleagues. It's almost like it's under the radar, cortisol. When we are under pressure, cortisol makes sure our body gets the energy it needs. It not only retrieves the reserve sugar from the liver, it also causes a kind of insulin mini-tsunami. It's really important that blood sugar gets into the muscles as quickly as possible, and insulin is the stuff that makes that happen by opening the cell doors, so to speak. It's the key to the cell, and cortisol is the key to insulin. However, it's important not to waste any resources. It's either run away or strike. There's not enough energy to fight a cold at the same time. The immune system is switched off. Digestion? We don't need it right now. The muscles need the blood and oxygen more than the gut, so we don't bother with that either. For the short period of an outburst of anger, the shutdown of the immune system has no consequences. If you are chronically angry, it's a different story. The constant suppression of healthy functions is one of the disease-promoting problems of those who are permanently angry. When sugar is in the blood, it binds water, so that the liquid follows it into the cells, which makes the blood thicker and a heart attack more likely. When you're angry, your insulin levels shoot up, triggered by cortisol. But after that, you've got to be careful with the sugar and reduce your insulin so that it doesn't disappear from the blood into the cells and your blood sugar drops too low. Quite a complicated mechanism. This makes it clear that anger isn't meant to be a permanent state. Short-term insulin spike production is what leads to diabetes if repeated too often. It is a useful response when a threatening situation needs to be resolved quickly. In the long run, it's not. However, we have a small problem here. It takes up to 36 hours for the adrenal hormones to be flushed out of our system. Even after the argument has ended, something small might set the rage off again. So we got an impressive list of harmful consequences for the bullies and aggressors. High blood pressure, heart attacks, strokes, susceptibility to infection and diabetes. All of these things are at the bottom of my personal wish list. How can we put out the fire when it is not needed? Bach flower essence practitioners are well aware of the calming properties of impatience, but it can also help with irritability after a conflict. Impatience is a flower that's perfect for the people who are easily irritated, our habitual fighters. In the event of an outburst of anger, however, it can calm us all down a little, especially after it's over. The same basically applies, only to a lesser extent, to the essence of holly, which is associated with all kinds of strong emotional expressions anyway, such as anger, rage, jealousy, and other excessive reactions and emotional habits. Anger is meant to be a protective emotion, to be used when your life is in danger. But for some people, it becomes such an emotional and behavior pattern that they even define themselves by it. According to what we've learned so far, this is a bad idea, and at best it can make you ill. If you get angry at any kind of incident, you're putting not only social peace at risk, but your own health too. It also limits your own flexibility and ability to develop. So let's talk about the next flower, willow. This one's for those who have progressed from the acute stage to the chronic stage. Maybe they were just angry at the time, but now they are always angry. The joy of life is for others, not for people who have developed into a willow state. In such a state, everything is wrong, unjust and mean, and you suffer like a dog. It's painful to watch the world fall apart when no one will listen to you. Who knows how to do it right? But not entirely without reason, because who wants to listen to permanently bad-tempered people? They complain about loneliness, while at the same time driving their fellow beings away. It is important to remember that certain behaviors such as complaining, moaning, ranting, scolding and swearing are not considered to be attractive and can even be detrimental to one's health. A nasty trick of fate. The sooner you turn the corner, the easier it is to return to a happy life. If you know someone like this, do them a favor, offer them a few drops of willow. Their puzzled face alone will be worth it.